In the richness of living in Austin, Texas, we have a variety of congregational faith communities expressing their love for God and for community. Today on Austin Faith Dialogue, we're going to talk about one such congregation. Stay with us on Austin Faith Dialogue.
Austin Faith Dialogue, at the crossroads of religion and life. A series highlighting the cultural and social interactions between the worshiping and religious communities in and around the capital city. Austin Faith Dialogue is brought to you by the Austin Metropolitan Ministries in cooperation with KXAN. Join us now in Austin Faith Dialogue.
Welcome to Austin Faith Dialogue. I'm Carl Gronberg, host for the program. One of the things I love about living in Austin is that we have such a variety of expressions of faith communities. And in this, there's a call to each one of us to know our neighbor's faith. If you would drive on East 51st Street, you would see a beautiful new church edifice. And two of the people who belong to that congregational community are here with us. From Our Lady's Maronite congregation, we have Ken Vargas. Welcome, Ken.
Thank you.
And we have the pastor, Father Don Sawyer, a longtime friend of mine. And Don, thank you for being with us. Good to have you both on Austin Faith Dialogue. Let's talk about your congregation, Our Lady's Maronite congregation, a church community located, did I say it right, East 51st Street? Mm-hmm. Right across from where the old airport, a little bit quieter maybe over there, huh? You don't
Much
hear those
quieter. Very nice.
Airplanes coming in and leaving as they did. Tell us a little bit about the congregation. What's going on? You have a new church building, and we're going to look at pictures of that later in the program, but tell us a little bit about the Maronite tradition. And rather than put Ken on the spot right away, let's go to the priest. Let's go to Father
I thought we
Sawyer.
should put Ken on the spot. Our parish, I don't even know where to begin, Carl. I mean, our parish, we're unique, we're Catholic, but we're Eastern in our traditions. Our Mass, our service, our liturgy was actually composed by St. James the Apostle. It's one of the oldest in the church. It's solidified by the 400s. And the history of the Maronites, particularly coming out of the Council of Chalcedon in 451, St. Maron, our patron saint, and all those who follow spirituality are called Maronites, or from the Syriac, Beit Maron, the house of Maron. But the idea that you can see in service, the use of Syriac, Aramaic, more prayers, more dialogue, facing east, as you mentioned, the dome of the church. The idea of the dome is that God is here with us, not so much up, but He's here, hovering over His people.
So when you see that beautiful dome driving on East 51st Street, there's symbolism in that dome, being that God's presence is there with the community gathered in worship. Now, Ken, you weren't raised in the Maronite tradition. Tell us, as one who's come into that tradition, what is it that attracted you to Our Lady's Parish? What is it that the Maronite faith expression spoke to you?
Well, I was first invited by my sister-in-law, who urged me to come and experience the liturgy, and once I did, I was hooked. The liturgy itself is a very beautiful liturgy to listen to and to completely absorb yourself in prayer with. And I quickly found myself doing that and felt very spiritual after the liturgies and wanted more. I wanted to continue to return to worship. And as I began to learn about the Maronite Church, and one of my first questions was, is it Catholic? And Father Don quickly answered my question, yes it is, and then explained to me the history of the Eastern churches and how they were in communion with Rome and with the Holy Father. And once that was settled, I said, okay, I want to learn more. I want to be here and become part of a member.
I think that's an important thing to say to our Austin Faith Dialogue viewing audience, that for the Maronites, because many people would say, what does that mean? Where does that come from? It would be a foreign term to many. To have them realize that the Maronites see themselves, as you said, they see themselves as Catholics, as a part of the Church Universal. You also mentioned something about the beauty of the liturgy. Off camera, you told me that the first day you went to worship, there was a feast going on, right?
That's right. It was a feast of the Assumption of the Blessed
And
Mother.
something very special happened to you at that feast. What happened?
Well, I guess it was a signal that I should probably stay at the church. I won a raffle for a trip to Las Vegas. And Father Don came to me after that and said, well,
since you're new and you just bought a raffle, I think you need to stick it out and stick around. I had already pretty much knew at that time that I did want to come back and be with the people. The warmth of the people is really what attracted me, kept me in the liturgy to this day.
Father Don, for those of us who might want to join your congregation, do we all win a trip to Las Vegas? Is that part of the deal? And can you work that out?
Well, you have to present your credentials.
So that's a part of the whole experience of socializing with the people. You mentioned when you come to worship on Sunday, there's a lot of discussion and conversation with the people as they come to the church building. And then you're called by the bell, is that right, to worship? And you have 3 liturgies a week, you mentioned to me. Wednesday nights?
Wednesday nights, Saturday at 5, and on Sunday at 10.
Okay, and these are all what we call liturgies?
Full liturgies, full
Holy
masses.
Communion, yeah,
Of
a Mass
course,
service.
yes.
Yeah. What is it that calls the people together besides the bell, and they gather in the nave, in the place of worship? Tell us a bit about that. I think that's a very interesting story about what happens with the procession.
Well, once the congregation is in the pews, and the deacon will come in and announce to us what page we're going to begin in the liturgical book, and everyone will rise in preparation of the procession. And in the procession, it will be led by the acolytes or altar boys or servers to the altar, who will walk in, followed by the deacons, followed by the priest, followed by the choir. It's a pretty long procession, but the singing begins, and once the doors are open and that procession enters the church and goes up to the altar, then a beautiful prayer in Aramaic is offered to the altar before we actually begin the liturgy.
That's a point I'd like to make also, the language, the Aramaic. Father Sawyer, why the Aramaic?
The Aramaic, our tradition is that, like the churches of the West come out of the Latin tradition, okay? The Church of Antioch, which we are a Church of Antioch, retained Aramaic. The Jewish people were speaking Aramaic after the time of the Babylonian exile. And our Lord, the apostles, the Blessed Mother spoke Aramaic. Jesus didn't run around speaking Latin or English or Spanish, you know. And so for us, it's tying in. And it's particularly at the Eucharist, we use Aramaic about 3 times in the service. But particularly at the Eucharist, this is closest we get to the Lord's Last Supper. And it's beautiful language. We like that continuity. Not that anyone speaks Aramaic, but it's tying into the historical Christ and the apostles.
Well, I like the idea of the connection, that you start the liturgy with that connection. Can you give us an example of what it sounds like?
Baituk alo hoilet waktum bimdi luxektet malkosh mayono hasolikul datit luk. Which means, I have entered your house, O Lord, I have worshipped before your throne. O King of glory, forgive all my sins. And the congregation responds in Aramaic, saying, may the Lord forgive you all of your sins. And then the priest is looking at everybody, saying, Salole me tu moran, pray for me to the Lord. And the people say, may the Lord accept your offering and sacrifice. And the tradition of the Eastern Church is that the priest celebrates only for the people. And he is like Moses, the prayer leader, and he only begins, and even if only with the people participation and approval. The people supposedly, if there's no one to vest him, he's not to be celebrating liturgy either, you know.
I think for those who are watching Austin Faith Dialogue, who come out of other traditions within Christendom and other faith communities, what a great opportunity for them to realize there is within Austin, Texas, this community that gathers for worship and does so by invoking the language that was used by the apostles, by Jesus, by others that are important to us. Kent, you were not raised with Aramaic. What's it like for you to become a part of this community and hear that language?
The language and the prayers are absolutely beautiful, and I'm fortunate enough to know quite a bit about the Arabic culture. My wife is from Jordan. So the many years that we've been married, I've been introduced to the culture, so it was not that foreign to me. But to actually go and listen to the chants in the Aramaic and even the liturgy itself on Sunday, there's a lot of music and a lot of chanting and participation from the congregation in that you're involved, you're participating in the liturgy as opposed to sitting back and responding every so often. You have to be fully engaged to keep up with the liturgy. And so it was very beautiful to me, aesthetically as well as spiritually. There are many times that during the Aramaic offerings or the prayers that I can't help but feel very moved, and even tears will roll down my eyes. And that's beautiful to do on a Sunday morning, and it's good for the week usually.
I want us to talk about the Holy Week experience, but we have a limited amount of time before we take our first break. But I want to ask you, if you were going to describe the Maronite tradition within the Catholic Church, what would you say are key ways to define it? Would you say, of course, liturgy, it sounds like, is definitely.
Oh, definitely.
What else would there be that would draw people to it?
Well, I want to add, like one man came and he said, this is a, with no offense to any other group, he said this is a more kinder, gentler form of Catholicism, of Christianity, where the West is very Western and maybe legalistic, where the Byzantine liturgy followed the Greek philosophical thinking, where this liturgy, it's a Syriac, it stays to biblical thought form, it stays to, and it uses analogies and poetry to express the hiddenness of God. Like, many are my sins, but greater is your mercy. When placed on the scales, your mercy, O Lord, prevails over the weight of the mountains, known only to you. That, yeah, we're sinners, fine, but gratefully, God redeems us. And like for Holy Week, it's a reenactment. It's like you are there. Remember the show years ago, you were there making present. And that's all that Holy Week for washing the feet on Holy Thursday and the stress of the Eucharist. But Good Friday, the Maronite liturgy is par excellence, because there you enter the church, it's dark and subdued, only enough sufficient to read, follow the service. And there you have the crucifix and a funeral bier, and people bring flowers. And it is a funeral service. We're in it after the prayers, after the reading of the Passion. The figure of Christ is taken off the cross, laid on a funeral bier in the shroud, and the men of the parish carry it, and everybody follows along. And it's around through the church 3 times, and on the end, everyone goes underneath the shroud, recalling what St. Paul says. If you die with Christ, you rise with Christ. And then do the prostrations, the clergy, everyone, and the people come up and venerate the figure of Christ.
Ken, now you call him not pastor. You have another term you told me. What do you call Father Sawyer?
We call him Abuna.
Abuna. All right. He is articulate. He has passion and soul. I've been his friend a long time. I can say that type of thing about him. He loves doing what he's doing. But for you, as a member of that congregation, the same type of feeling when you participate in this Holy Week liturgy?
Absolute passion. The most passion I've ever had is that week, particularly Good Friday. And it's the closest I come to realizing just exactly what sacrifice was made for us and for our souls. And it's done because of the liturgy and because of the drama of that day. I'm most proud that I'm able to share that with my children.
All
and they
right.
can
The
participate in that as
salvation
well.
history, then, is a part of the experience. We're going to come back and talk more about it. Stay with us on Austin Faith Dialogue as we continue this very exciting exploration of the Maronite tradition within the Catholic faith. We went away so quickly to show you information about this wonderful organization that sponsors us, Austin Metropolitan Ministries. And I'd like to mention to you also who are watching this program on Austin Faith Dialogue that this congregation we're talking about, Our Lady's Maronite, have been very supportive of Austin Metropolitan Ministry. And Don Sawyer, you are hosting the interfaith service that Austin Metropolitan Ministry has had for a couple times in the last 5 years?
We've hosted it twice, and I've been the chairman the past 4 years, I believe, 4 years, 5 years.
I know I've come to meetings over there.
Yeah.
You've really worked hard on this, and I want to express from all of us in the community thanks for your hospitality.
Thank you.
And for the
Yeah.
opportunity to have your pastor leading us in that interfaith worship. That's an exciting time. Well, before we took the break to talk about AMM, we were just talking about Holy Week and the experience that you have, and then I was saying at the break that under the dome, you are having this experience of the presence of the message of Holy Week with you. I'd like to talk a little bit about that building. How long has the congregation been in Austin, Don?
I believe we were founded in 1983. We first started out at St. George's Episcopal Church on I-35, and then we were given 5 acres of land, and we first were in a little house, and then we built the parish hall, which we've been in for the past 14 years. 14 years, and then we built the present church, which is modeled after a church in the Holy Land, St. Simeon, the Stylites.
Interesting.
It's a huge basilica. It was the largest church at the time when it was built, oriented towards the east, native Austin limestone in it.
It's a beautiful facility, yeah. We'd like to invite our viewing audience to come and see this beautiful facility. Maybe again at the interfaith service sometime we might be over there. Tell us a little bit about the building itself. You started that process of building it when?
We broke ground in 1997. It was December. And then we've been under construction, and the bishop was here.
Now here's a picture of the outside. This is the exterior that we're showing on the screen at this time.
So you can see the bell tower on the left, and our bell came from the Holy Land. It was made for us, and everything is very typically Antiochian architecture with the gables and the arches.
And then we go inside, and we have another picture. And what do we have here? What are we seeing?
You're looking at the decorated tomb on Easter, talking about Holy Week, and you're looking up east, past the altar, and above the altar you have the Mother of God that's painted. And this is a replica of an old Maronite icon that's in the Holy Valley in Lebanon, and it's Our Lady of Canobine, Our Lady of the Community, Our Lady of the Monastery.
And now we have another picture. What is this one?
Same thing, without the tomb of Christ. And you can see the 2 windows in the east, in the apse. Traditionally, the two windows is Michael and Gabriel, and you see the crucifix. And tradition of all the Eastern Catholics is not to have statues, but to have icons.
You gave me a tour when I came by one day, and you would probably offer that same kind of tour for the right price, I suppose, to any of the clergy. Or
You can give people that wrong.
I got it free.
You can give people the
impression.
impression.
But you would give, if people wanted to have a tour to be able to learn more about the Maronite faith community?
We've had church groups. In fact, your parish, your pastor's talking about bringing his group over. We've had groups from Austin Presbyterian Seminary to come over, from St. Cyril Methodius School in Granger, Texas, and a couple other schools have come over.
Ken, does that make you proud?
Absolutely.
Yeah, they can come and see your place of worship.
It's something that the community has worked very hard for in the last few years, and it's been a frustrating process to build and of course to fund. Now we have to pay off the
you
the
gotta
debt.
be kidding. It's not frustrating to build, is it? Is that?
But
It's an
we're there
experience.
now, and it's becoming our home. The newness of it is starting to wear off now, and we're starting to feel very comfortable there.
You talked about liturgy. You talked about Holy Week, and you've shown us pictures of the beauty of your place of worship. But you also are a people of community. And you mentioned to me off the air that if people want to come, they should really come at a feast time, because you also have, let's forget the lottery, okay, or the raffle or whatever it is that you won. But you also have food. You like to, the people like to eat, prepare food. Lebanese food, is that correct?
That's correct. One of the best Lebanese dishes that you can get in the Central Texas area, you'll find at our church on Palm Sunday. And we have a Palm Sunday dinner with the Lebanese food and get together and just have a terrific time celebrating that feast day.
How do you, Don, see the bringing together, that type of, that look on your face saying, what am I going to say now? That coming together of the food, the culture, the history, and the present experience?
I just was going to make a plug. We have a Hafli, a dance, Arabic dance, coming October the 23rd. And how it fits in, it's
don't move so quickly. October the 23rd?
October the 23rd.
You're going to have what?
We have an Arabic band and a dinner.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, we're putting
Sure.
that on, so you could call the church for
What
tickets.
is October 23rd? What day is that?
It's a Saturday night. No feast day, unfortunately.
But people can come and enjoy that
The
experience?
public is welcome, as
Yeah.
always, yeah. We do activities like that. But it typically of Maronite, the hospitality, I remember as a young boy meeting a Maronite priest. It was at a dance. I don't know if I told you, Kenneth. And I was respectful, and the priest looked at me. He said, well, Don, do you like to dance? I said, yes. He says, won't you go grab a girl and go dance? Don't be sitting and talking with an old priest like me. And I thought, this is so odd. And it's typically, I mean, because we say we experience Christ in one another. You experience Christ in dancing. I'm sure when the Lord went to the wedding feast of Cana, he just didn't sit and watch. He got up and danced. He had his wine. And that's God's plan for us. God gives us so many blessings, and he wants us to be happy. And we're not enjoying, we're thwarting his plan of salvation if we don't enjoy ourselves.
What I hear you saying, Father, is that in the many dimensions of life, that the faith embraces all those dimensions, not only in the beauty and the mystery of liturgy, as you described, but also in the interaction of congregants as they eat together and dance together and fellowship.
It's a foretaste of the kingdom of God.
Mm-hmm. Where do you go from here? Maronite congregation. You're the only Maronite congregation in the city of Austin?
Mm-hmm.
And where is the next closest one to you?
San Antonio, St. George's Parish. It's fascinating because we now have two dioceses, or we say the Greek word eparchies, in the United States. We have two bishops. And now we've opened, in the recent years, parish in Houston, El Paso, Dallas, Tulsa. We're looking into Louisiana because we have Maronites there that have never been ministered to by Maronite priests. So we have a young diocese. I'm one of the older priests, believe it or not. Yeah, I'm a senior priest. So it's a young and vibrant. And you see whole Maronites who never had their own churches writing the bishop or writing and contacting the priest says, can we start having our own churches?
So people are saying, who have had ministry by Maronite priests in the past, are saying, we would like to have our own congregation.
Well, they never had their Maronite priest.
Where are you getting priests to serve the needs of these people? Where do you have a seminary? How are they being trained?
Well, we have a seminary in Washington, D.C. Some guys will go to Rome as the bishop directs. Some come from Lebanon, but it's interesting because we're a mixture. We have even priests from Italy. We have priests. It's a salad of priests. We have African American priest, deacon. He's a cardiovascular doctor, and so it's very unique. And the guys come from different traditions.
Because you are so connected with a culture and a heritage and background, what about reaching out to other people and the diversity of this culture, of this city? You are open, you mentioned the deacon, but you are open to all types of people. You are an inviting type of congregation.
Oh, very friendly, very inviting.
What does one have to go through, though, if they want to become a part of the Maronite tradition?
Start coming. Come, register, and be. Get involved, meet people.
But you would give them training, you give them instruction?
Well, it depends. If they're Catholics, they come, they want to join the parish, we never turn them away. They're welcome to. If they're coming from other Christian traditions, for them to understand, we have classes for them,
What do you do in the area of social ministry? Now, I mentioned that you're very involved in Austin Metropolitan Ministries. What other type of social ministry and outreach do you have? Do you have any type of contact with the homeless, or do you have any type of way of helping those people who are hungry in our community? Is there in your organization some type of social ministry?
We're not organized. In fact, I'm the only paid employee. But we have activities. We're always collecting food. We give food out at the door. Senior citizens, the parishioners involved with senior citizens, giving them food, or particularly like sweets and pastries that they don't usually obtain. We've hosted the AIDS benefit at our parish center before in the past years. One of the most successful ones was at our place. So we've been very social conscious.
And serve the community of Austin in a specific way by inviting people to this type of expression of the faith, but also in other ways. Yeah, Don,
and also add, too, we've hosted the Coptic Orthodox community They have their liturgies. We're having them once a month at our place. In fact, they called me today. They'll be with us end of the month. We've also had the Tridentine Latin Catholics at our place for well over a year. And we're going to host a charismatic Episcopal group. So we've been open to different groups.
Ken, you as a member of the congregation, you support your pastor in all of this outreach?
Absolutely. We are a small community and limited in numbers, but we're a very close-knit community. There are still a lot of challenges that we have to overcome to maintain a church that physically is this large, and a social hall, and all of the administrative tasks, and helping the Father with that. In addition to that, Father Don and I are also in charge of the monthly newspaper for the entire diocese. So that keeps us pretty busy
Goes nationwide.
as we spread the word about the Maronite faith and help build the diocese and the missions throughout the United States.
But what strikes me is that you are not interested in proselyting people, but you are interested in inviting. And I think that's an important part as we talk about our neighbor's faith, that we respect one another, we learn from one another, and that we grow in a sense of the unity that we have as people. I'm also wondering about the children. You mentioned about the children on Palm Sunday. We just have a couple minutes left with the program. Tell me about what type of children's ministry or youth ministry that you have.
Well, we do have classes, religious education classes. In fact, next week we begin a vacation Bible school that a lot of the children are looking very forward to. Many of the children who go to our church are very young. They're 2 years old to 7, 8 years old. So the future of our church looks very, very good with that many young men and women. And it's our responsibility to have their faith grow, have them become part of a faith community, but also a social community where they can turn to one another as friends or as, in many cases, family, and support one another. We hope to one day be able to start a parochial school and an outreach to senior citizens in the future, God willing.
Father Don Sawyer.
Yes, sir.
Anything you'd like to say in conclusion? We have about a minute to go. What would you like to say about your parish, Our Lady's Maronite congregation, this parish community?
Well, I'm biased. I think we have the best and good group of people. All I can say is people come and see, visit us and learn something about, I like to say, the mother church of Catholics, of Christians, you know.
You know, what I want to say is thank you. Thank you for being a part of the Austin community. Thank you for the contribution that your congregation makes to Austin Metropolitan Ministry. And thank you for learning more about your neighbor's faith. That as we grow in this knowledge of one another, we sense a respect and a unity that God wants for all of us to have. Thanks for watching Austin Faith Dialogue. Peace be with you always. Thank you.